Welcome, the anointed ones. Some people don't recognize a spiritual heavyweight until life rings the bell and they realize they've been swinging at someone way above their division. That's the funny thing about being a chosen one. People assume you're ordinary because you move quietly, you mind your business, and you carry yourself like someone who isn't trying to win any popularity contest. They confuse humility with softness and your peace with passiveness. They think you're just coasting through life, unaware of how powerful you truly are. Meanwhile, your spirit is sitting there like a security guard on night shift, watching them poke at you thinking, bless their heart, they truly have no idea. Here's a fact most people don't know. Over 85% of human conflict happens because people misjudge another person's inner strength or boundaries. And for chosen ones, that misjudgment is practically guaranteed. Folks don't just misread you, they underestimate you with confidence. They go out of their way to test you like you're some spiritual scratch card they're curious to rub open. But what they don't understand is this. Your spiritual rank doesn't show up until it's activated. And what activates it? Tests, challenges, disrespect. The little games people play when they think you're too calm, too forgiving, too normal, too unthreatening to have any real spiritual firepower behind you. They think you're safe to play with. They think you're simple to handle. They think your spirit has no enforcement department. Then they push you the wrong way, and everything changes. Because when they tested you, they triggered something ancient, something wired into your soul long before they ever met you. Suddenly, they're not dealing with the version of you they imagined. They're dealing with the version of you that's backed, protected, and spiritually authorized. The version that doesn't fight dirty, but wins decisively. The version that doesn't retaliate, but is never defeated. And here's where the comedy kicks in. The same people who acted bold begin acting confused. They start looking around like, why is my life glitching? Why is nothing working? Unaware that the universal system simply sent them the invoice for messing with someone who carries spiritual clearance they weren't qualified to challenge. This is the moment they discover your true rank, not because you announced it, not because you bragged about it, but because their own test revealed exactly who you are. Today, we're diving into that revelation, how your spiritual rank stayed hidden, why they misjudged you so badly, and how their own actions became the spotlight that exposed your power. Let's get into the truth they never expected to face. Number 1. They didn't know your spirit had laws they couldn't break until their violations started ricocheting back on them. People assumed they could treat you however they wanted because they thought you were unguarded. They believed you were just another person they could talk down to, use, manipulate, or disrespect without any real consequences. They saw your kindness as an open door and your patience as a free pass. What they didn't understand is that you're not operating under their rules. You're governed by spiritual laws that don't bend for anyone's ego. Every chosen one has a built-in system that returns energy exactly how it's given. It doesn't need your permission, and it doesn't wait for your reaction. You don't have to fight, you don't have to clap back, you don't have to match their pettiness. Your spirit does the accounting quietly and efficiently, and when the balance sheet is overdue, it sends back whatever they invested into you, with interest. So when they pushed you, they weren't just pushing you, they were provoking the law that protects you. The funny part is, they never realized the shift until their own life started glitching. Their plans stopped working. Their connections started breaking. Their good luck dried up. They kept wondering why everything suddenly felt off, unaware that they were dealing with a spiritual boomerang effect that comes with mishandling someone chosen. You didn't curse them, you didn't wish anything bad on them, you didn't ask for any revenge. The universe simply hit return to sender. People often learn your value through the consequences they create for themselves. They thought they were testing your limits, but they were actually testing the limits of what the universe would tolerate when it comes to you. And once they crossed that invisible line, their actions became their punishment. That's when they finally realized there are certain people you cannot mistreat without paying for it. Your spirit has boundaries they didn't recognize. They saw you as approachable, but they didn't understand that you're also protected. And the moment they violated those limits, they introduced themselves to a reality they weren't ready for. The spiritual laws around your life don't play games, even when you do. Number 2, they thought you were unprotected because you were quiet, not realizing your silence was a sign of cosmic backing, not weakness. People often misunderstand quiet souls. They look at your calm nature and assume you're defenseless. They see your ability to walk away instead of arguing and think you're scared. They watch you keep your peace instead of clapping back and think you're powerless. What they never understood is that your silence isn't emptiness, it's authority. It's the confidence of someone who knows they are not walking alone. When you don't respond to provocation, it confuses people who thrive on chaos. They believe they're getting away with something, that they're controlling the situation, that you're too soft to speak up or stand up for yourself. They mistake your restraint for surrender. They can't comprehend that someone can choose peace, not because they're afraid to fight, but because they're protected on a level that doesn't require fighting. Quietness is a language they never learned. It's how spiritually backed people move. You don't waste energy proving yourself to people who aren't even qualified to understand your rank. You don't rush to defend your name because you know time does that better. You don't force your worth into the open because you know it reveals itself naturally. Your silence is not passive, it's controlled strength. People only started realizing their mistake when life itself began stepping in on your behalf. The same people who thought you were unprotected watched unexpected doors open for you. Opportunities unfold out of nowhere and situations turn in your favor without you lifting a finger. That's when it hit them. Your quiet wasn't weakness, it was evidence of spiritual reinforcement. Your silence wasn't a lack of defense, it was a sign that your defenders don't argue, they act. Every time you stayed quiet, something bigger spoke for you. And when the dust settled, those who misjudged you realized they weren't dealing with someone alone. They were dealing with someone carried, covered, and backed by forces far greater than anything they could see. Their mistake was believing you needed to be loud to be strong, not knowing your strength had already been confirmed in realms they never had access to. Number 3, they tested your patience and ended up triggering consequences meant to warn them, not you. People often assume patience means you're tolerating their behavior indefinitely. They think because you didn't react the first, second, or third time, you never will. They assume your calm is an invitation for more disrespect, more games, more testing. What they don't realize is that patience has a limit, and once that limit is hit, the universe steps in with its own system of correction. Your patience isn't softness. It's your spirit giving people a chance to adjust, to rethink, to correct themselves. It's a window of grace they didn't appreciate. Instead of recognizing it as an opportunity to align, they took it as a green light to keep pushing. They kept trying to see how far they could go, and unknowingly walked right into spiritual consequences that were designed for their growth, not your punishment. The moment your patience ran out, you didn't explode or cause chaos. You simply detached. You stopped explaining yourself. You stopped giving reminders. You stopped giving them access to your energy. And while they thought your withdrawal was the consequence, that was only the beginning. What followed was life responding to their actions in a way they couldn't ignore. Relationships started falling apart for them. Things they relied on began slipping out of their hands. Opportunities they thought were secure suddenly became unstable. None of this happened because you wished them harm. It happened because patience is a divine timer. When it expires, the lesson arrives. The universe doesn't punish people out of anger. It corrects them out of truth. And the truth was simple. They mishandled someone they weren't meant to play with. That's the moment they realized your patience wasn't a weakness, but a warning. Every time you let something slide, it was a chance for them to change, not a sign that you were blind. But they kept pushing until the consequences pushed back harder. And when those consequences finally landed, they learned the hard way that your spirit doesn't stay silent forever. Once the lesson activates, it speaks louder than anything you could have ever said. Number 4. They mistook your emotional depth for instability, not knowing your spirit is calibrated to feel more because you're built to carry more. Many people misunderstand those who experience life intensely. They see your ability to feel deeply, your highs, your lows, your subtle intuitions, and they panic. They think it's fragile, unpredictable, even dangerous. They assume anyone who reacts strongly to injustice, who carries emotions like armor, must be unstable. What they never realize is that your emotional depth isn't a flaw. It's a signal of your spiritual capacity. You're built to sense, absorb, and process energies that most people can't even detect. You aren't reacting out of weakness. You're operating on a level far beyond what they understand. They misjudged you because they measure everyone by ordinary standards. They see someone quiet one moment and passionate the next and think, this person can't handle life. They fail to notice that your spirit is wired differently. You're not just living through the world's surface, you're feeling its undercurrents. You pick up on what's unspoken, what's hidden, and what others would rather ignore. Every emotion you experience is calibrated to your spiritual rank, giving you insight and awareness they will never reach. The moment they tried to push you, to provoke you, to manipulate your feelings, they discovered the truth too late. Your emotions didn't make you erratic. They revealed the precision of your soul. Every strong reaction, every quiet withdrawal, every moment of composed intensity was a demonstration of your capacity to carry more, to endure more, and to process more than anyone around you. They assumed vulnerability. They witnessed power. What they couldn't see at first was that your depth is protective. It's a natural filter that lets you understand who belongs in your life and who doesn't. People who misinterpret it as instability find themselves exposed to their own miscalculations. They learn that your emotional bandwidth isn't just about feeling, it's about discerning, navigating and commanding energy that others aren't ready to handle. Your emotional depth isn't a weakness. It's a weapon of clarity, a shield of insight, and the silent proof of your rank. Number 5, they underestimated you because your power doesn't broadcast. It unfolds. Most people judge strength by what they can see. Loud voices, flashy actions, constant movement, they equate visibility with power. They assumed that because you weren't drawing attention to yourself, you weren't formidable. They thought your quiet presence was passivity, your measured actions were weakness, and your confidence without display was emptiness. They failed to understand that true power, especially the kind you possess, doesn't need to announce itself. It reveals itself naturally, over time, and always at the right moment. Your power doesn't scream because it doesn't have to. It's steady, precise, and intelligent. It doesn't rely on approval or validation from anyone else. It's not performative. Every choice you make, every boundary you set, every calm response to chaos is an invisible signal that carries more weight than anything loud or brash could. People who underestimated you didn't realize that your presence alone is a force field. It protects, commands, and influences without ever being overt. They only realized the truth when the ripple effects of your actions hit them. That promotion they wanted, the influence they tried to wield, the respect they assumed was theirs, suddenly it shifted in ways they couldn't predict. You didn't announce your moves, You didn't manipulate the situation, and you didn't rush to show strength. Yet your power unfolded so clearly in the consequences of their own choices that there was no denying it. What they assumed was nothing became undeniable reality, leaving them confused, frustrated, and, most importantly, aware of your spiritual rank. Underestimating someone like you is a fatal error because your strength isn't always immediate. It's cumulative. It builds silently, adapts, and responds with precision. By the time it becomes visible, it's not something they can challenge or control. And that's when they finally understood. You didn't need to advertise your power. Your life, your results, and the way the universe aligns with you are enough to make them recognize that underestimating you was the first mistake they would regret. Your power doesn't need a spotlight. It commands attention simply by existing. Number 6. They thought provoking you would expose your flaws, not reveal their lack of spiritual clearance. Some people walk through life believing that by testing others, by provoking them, or by pushing their buttons, they can expose weakness. They think that everyone's limits are visible, that every person's boundaries are fragile, and that everyone can be rattled under pressure. They saw you as just another target, someone whose composure could be cracked with the right words or actions. What they didn't know is that provoking you never reveals your flaws. It exposes theirs. Your spirit operates on a level they don't understand. When they attempted to manipulate or unsettle you, your reactions didn't show weakness. They revealed clarity, strength, and discernment. Every time they tried to push, they hit an invisible barrier they had no authority to breach. Their words bounced off, their intentions became transparent, and their strategies backfired in ways they didn't even recognize. They weren't discovering your limits. They were discovering the boundaries they were never qualified to cross. Provoking you is like poking a firewall. They thought they were testing your patience, your control, your emotional stability, but the truth is, their actions revealed their own lack of spiritual alignment. They learned firsthand that not everyone responds according to human expectation. Your responses are calibrated by insight, not impulse. You see through energy, you measure intention, and you only act where there's authority to act. They assumed you would react emotionally or irrationally, but instead, you responded with precision. Your presence alone exposing every flaw in their plan. This is when they realized that their arrogance was the real vulnerability. They assumed superiority over someone they didn't understand, and the results were humiliating, disorienting, and instructive. Every manipulation, every challenge, every attempt to provoke you became a mirror showing them their own limitations. They learned that challenging you without understanding your spiritual rank isn't just a mistake. It's an exposure of their unpreparedness, their ignorance, and the fact that they're operating in realms where they have no authority. Your composure, your insight, and your restraint don't hide weakness. They highlight truth. And that truth, painfully and unmistakably, was theirs to face, not yours. Number 7. They thought they had leverage over you until they realized your blessings aren't sourced from anything they control. Many people operate under the assumption that influence and control come from power, money, or proximity. They believe that if they can manipulate circumstances, sway opinions, or position themselves strategically, they can gain leverage over anyone, including you. They assumed that because they had access to certain tools or connections, they could bend your life to fit their agenda. What they didn't understand is that your blessings aren't dependent on anything they have, anything they give, or anything they can withhold. They tried to use influence, intimidation, and even charm, thinking it would sway your trajectory. They believed that by making themselves essential to your progress, they could control your outcomes. But you operate differently. Your growth, your elevation, your destiny, they come from sources beyond human hands. The universe, divine alignment, or whatever higher force guides your path isn't negotiable. No matter how they maneuvered, no matter what access they tried to gain, they were operating in a system they have no authority over. What they thought was leverage ended up being their blind spot. Every attempt to interfere with your path failed because the foundation of your life isn't built on their presence. It's built on a force they cannot touch, cannot replicate, and cannot manipulate. They discovered this gradually. Opportunities they tried to block still found you. Support they tried to withhold still arrived. Doors they assumed were under their control opened regardless of their actions. It wasn't coincidence. It was proof that your blessings are autonomous, unborrowed, and untouchable by anyone who doesn't have clearance to be in your realm. By the time they fully realized it, the shock had set in. All the leverage they believed they held was an illusion. They were operating with false confidence, while you continued to rise quietly, guided by a force that doesn't require their permission or validation. They tested the limits of what they could control, only to find that nothing in your life is theirs to manipulate. Your blessings are yours alone, and that truth revealed your spiritual rank far louder than any words ever could. Number 8. They tried to manipulate your emotions, not knowing your spirit reads intentions louder than mouths speak. Many people assume they can control others by playing on feelings. They believe that if they can provoke, confuse, or charm someone, they can steer them like a puppet. They approached you thinking they could manipulate your emotions the way they do with ordinary people. They assumed that your kindness, empathy, or patience could be used as a lever to get what they wanted. What they didn't realize is that your spirit isn't fooled by words, actions, or appearances. It reads the real energy behind them. Your soul senses intentions before they are spoken and discerns truth from deception in ways they are completely blind to. They tried subtle tactics, hoping to test your boundaries. They flattered, pressured, criticized, and baited, expecting a reaction. But your responses weren't reactive. They were calibrated. Every shift in your demeanor, every pause, every moment of quiet, was your spirit processing the energy and determining the proper response. They couldn't see it, but you were scanning the intentions behind their actions, weighing the authenticity of their energy, and measuring alignment against your own spiritual standards. Their manipulations didn't destabilize you. They illuminated their own flaws, their dishonesty, and their lack of spiritual clearance. The more they pushed, the more their motives became transparent. They thought they were playing a game. They didn't realize the game was over the moment they entered your space. Your spirit doesn't negotiate with energy that's not aligned. It blocks it, filters it, and eventually neutralizes it. Their attempts to sway you backfired, not because you were clever or manipulative, but because your inner radar is designed to detect imbalance, dishonesty, and hidden agendas instantly. By the time they recognized it, the lesson was undeniable. Their energy, not yours, had dictated the outcome. They thought they could manipulate you, but all they managed to do was expose themselves. Your spirit reads intentions, not words. That's the unshakable truth they discovered. You cannot be played, you cannot be bent, and your emotional field isn't a playground for anyone who doesn't respect the unseen authority guarding it. Number 9. They learned your rank when their plans required your downfall, but ended up revealing your resilience. People often assume that if they can manipulate circumstances against you, they can break you. They create schemes, set traps, or subtly work to derail your progress, confident that your spirit will crack under pressure. They don't realize that resilience isn't something you put on. It's something built into your core. When they tried to orchestrate your downfall, they weren't witnessing your defeat. They were witnessing your strength reveal itself in real time. Their plans were precise, calculated, and designed to expose what they believed were weaknesses. They expected panic, frustration, or despair. Instead, what they encountered was calm endurance. You didn't crumble, you didn't lash out, and you didn't plead for fairness. You simply persisted, navigating the challenges with a clarity and focus that left them baffled. Every attempt to shake you off your path only made your foundation stronger. What they thought was leverage over you became a mirror reflecting the limits of their understanding. The irony of it is striking. The very schemes meant to diminish you became the stage on which your resilience shined. Their interference acted like a spotlight, highlighting your capacity to withstand pressure, to adapt, and to maintain alignment with your purpose. While they expected to see cracks, they instead saw a spirit unshakable and a presence that grew even more formidable under scrutiny. By the time their plans collapsed, they realized that your rank isn't measured by what you avoid, it's measured by what you endure and still rise above. They learned that your power doesn't depend on circumstances being favorable. It depends on your ability to remain steady when chaos surrounds you, to stay aligned when people try to misalign you, and to let your integrity and focus carry the outcome. Their plots didn't expose vulnerability, they revealed your spiritual authority. And that authority became undeniable the moment they understood that no strategy, no manipulation, and no ill intent could touch the core of who you are. Your resilience wasn't a reaction, it was a statement, and it left them seeing your rank clearly for the first time. Number 10. They misread your compassion as naivety, not realizing compassion is your spiritual tracking system. Many people assume that compassion equals weakness. They see your ability to empathize, to forgive, and to offer kindness without expecting anything in return and think it makes you vulnerable, easy to manipulate, or unprepared for confrontation. They misjudge the depth of your heart because they don't understand the purpose behind it. Your compassion isn't just emotion, it's a tool, a radar, a system that scans intentions and measures character long before they reveal themselves openly. They tried to take advantage of it, thinking your kindness would allow them access to your energy, your time, or your trust without consequence. They assumed your generosity was indiscriminate and that your patience was limitless. What they didn't know is that compassion is a filtering mechanism. It allows you to detect who belongs in your life and who doesn't, who is aligned with your path and who is trying to derail it. Each act of understanding, each moment of mercy, quietly gathers data on the integrity of those around you. It isn't blind, it's precise. The revelation comes slowly for them, often after they've pushed too far. They realize that your so-called softness has been observing them all along. Every excuse they offered, every hidden motive they thought went unnoticed, was recorded by your compassion without bias or judgment. Their actions, not your reactions, determined the outcome. The people who misunderstood you often discover this only when the universe begins to mirror back their intentions. Your compassion isn't a vulnerability, it's a measuring stick that exposes misalignment and protects your life from influence that doesn't belong there. What they interpreted as naivety is actually your advantage. While they assumed they were navigating a simple human heart, they were actually under the scrutiny of a spiritual radar that's far more sensitive than they can comprehend. By the time they realize the truth, the lessons are undeniable. Your compassion didn't make you weak, it made you untouchable. It doesn't just feel, it discerns. And the same kindness they tried to exploit becomes the mechanism through which your spiritual rank is revealed. Number 11. They assumed you were spiritually accessible, not realizing your energy has filters they can't bypass. Many people think everyone is reachable, that everyone can be influenced if they know the right words, apply the right pressure, or exploit the right vulnerabilities. They assume access equals control, that proximity equals authority, and that familiarity equals permission. They believed they could slip into your energy, manipulate your decisions, or shape your path because they thought you were available. What they didn't understand is that your spirit isn't open to just anyone. It has layers, defenses, and filters that automatically screen who belongs and who doesn't. They tried subtle ways to get close, to test boundaries, to see how far they could push. They assumed your generosity, patience, or tolerance was an invitation, a crack in the armor. What they discovered instead was a force field that reacts automatically to misalignment. Your energy doesn't need you to act in every situation. It responds on its own. It blocks manipulation, neutralizes harmful intent, and keeps people from stepping into spaces they're not cleared to enter. Every attempt they made to cross lines they shouldn't have was quietly filtered and corrected before it ever touched your life. This is when they realized the depth of your rank. It wasn't the things you said or did. It was the subtle way life itself resisted their interference. They noticed opportunities that should have been denied appearing anyway, relationships they tried to influence developing according to your alignment, and doors they thought were locked opening regardless of their efforts. Your energy wasn't negotiable, and their influence was powerless. By the time they grasped the truth, it was undeniable. Your spiritual filters aren't negotiable, they aren't visible, and they aren't something anyone can override. They assumed access would mean control, but control was never an option. They were forced to recognize that your life is governed by forces they can't touch, frequencies they can't reach, and boundaries they can't breach. Your energy isn't just yours, it's a sovereign system, and only those who align with it can ever enter it. That's when they saw your rank clearly, and for the first time, they realized just how untouchable you truly are. Number 12. They learned your rank when they realized hurting you cost them more than it cost you. Many people operate under the illusion that causing harm gives them power. They think that if they insult, deceive, or betray you, they can gain advantage, push you down, or control your trajectory. They assume that you will feel the full weight of their actions while they remain untouched. What they never anticipated is that in your life, energy doesn't just flow one way. When someone tries to inflict harm on you without alignment, the consequences almost always ricochet back to the source. They tested this repeatedly, thinking they were clever, thinking they were untouchable. Every insult, every manipulation, every attempt to destabilize you was a miscalculation. Your spirit doesn't absorb pain blindly, it transforms it. You endure, adapt, and rise while the negative energy they sent out rebounds, creating challenges in their own life they never expected. The very effort they put into trying to hurt you ends up becoming a liability for them. What they thought was an attack became the mechanism by which their errors were exposed. The moment they realized this, it was a shock. They saw that your composure, your clarity, and your forward movement were untouched by their actions, while simultaneously their lives started reflecting instability, loss, or unexpected consequences. They believed that the imbalance would be yours to bear, but the universe has a way of aligning justice in unexpected ways. Your rank isn't measured by vulnerability, it's measured by how your strength and resilience reflect on those who tried to disrupt it. By the time the lesson fully sank in, they understood the truth. Targeting you was a mistake they couldn't reverse. Every attempt to harm you ended up highlighting your unshakable position and their own lack of spiritual clearance. Hurting you didn't break you, it broke their illusion of control. And in that moment, they saw clearly that your life isn't a battlefield for anyone else's ego. The more they tried to diminish you, the more the universe reminded them who truly holds the power. Their actions were a mirror, and the reflection revealed your rank far louder than any words ever could. Number 13. They finally understood your spiritual rank when they saw life rewarding you for battles they thought would bury you. People often assume that hardship should define weakness. They believe that if someone faces enough challenges, enough opposition, or enough betrayal, they will eventually crumble. They assumed the same about you. They expected that the obstacles they set in your path, the lies, the manipulations, the unfair situations, would slow you down, damage your reputation, or even break your spirit. What they didn't know is that every challenge they placed in your way was only highlighting your resilience and accelerating your alignment with the life you were destined to lead. While they were busy trying to see you fail, life was quietly conspiring in your favor. Doors opened that they assumed were closed. Opportunities arrived that they thought were unreachable. Support came from unexpected sources, guidance appeared in subtle ways, and circumstances shifted in your favor without any visible effort on your part. Every trial they intended as a setback became a platform for your growth, a stage on which your strength and your spiritual rank became undeniable. They realized, often too late, that your battles didn't weaken you, they elevated you. They expected that the weight they put on your shoulders would crush you, but instead it refined you. It taught you lessons, strengthened your focus, and clarified your purpose. Their interference, intended to derail you, became the mechanism by which your power, your insight, and your authority were revealed. You didn't just survive what they thought would defeat you. You transformed it into proof of your spiritual standing. By the time it became clear to them, they were forced to acknowledge that your rise wasn't dependent on avoiding hardship. Your rank is proven in how you respond when life seems stacked against you, when people doubt you, and when the world tests your limits. Every challenge they orchestrated, every battle they hoped would bury you, became a testament to the force, clarity, and authority that define you. Life rewarded you not in spite of the trials, but because of them, and that revelation left no doubt about the spiritual heights you occupy. Number 14. They discovered your rank the moment they realized no matter what they tried, they couldn't access your destiny or replicate your calling. Some people think that if they push, manipulate, or compete hard enough, they can take a piece of your life, your success, or your purpose. They assume that influence, strategy, or sheer effort gives them the ability to interfere with your destiny. They didn't know that your path is encoded in a way that no human control can touch. Your calling is unique, divinely aligned, and protected by forces they cannot see or influence. Every attempt they made to mimic your journey, redirect your opportunities, or claim your space only highlighted the distance between their understanding and your spiritual authority. They tried to compare, to compete, to outshine, thinking they could shortcut your progress or replicate your impact. But every time they did, they encountered invisible boundaries that couldn't be crossed. Doors they thought they could force open remained closed. Opportunities they hoped to hijack bypassed them entirely. Their strategies backfired, not because of luck or coincidence, but because your life is orchestrated by alignment and purpose, not by the whims or interference of others. They learned that your calling isn't something anyone can replicate. It's uniquely yours, built into your very essence, and guarded by your spiritual presence. The moment they understood this, it hit hard. They realized that all their plotting, all their measuring, all their efforts to compete or manipulate were powerless against what is inherently yours. They saw that while they were scrambling to imitate or interrupt, you moved forward effortlessly, protected, guided, and unstoppable. The revelation isn't just about your uniqueness, it's about authority. Your destiny is non-transferable, untouchable, and inaccessible to anyone who doesn't operate on your frequency. By the time they fully grasped it, there was no denying your rank. They were forced to confront the truth that your life, your path, and your calling exist in a realm they cannot enter. What they thought they could test, influence, or claim only serve to make your position clearer. Your destiny isn't up for debate or compromise, and that truth revealed, more than any display of strength, the depth, precision, and spiritual authority you carry. They learned too late that your life cannot be borrowed, blocked, or broken. It can only unfold exactly as it was meant to. Conclusion. By now, it should be unmistakably clear that being a chosen one isn't about appearances, loud proclamations, or superficial victories. It's about a presence so deep, so calibrated, and so aligned with a higher order that the world often fails to recognize it until it is confronted. Every test, every challenge, every attempt to manipulate or break, you has served not to diminish your power, but to reveal it in ways others can neither replicate nor understand. Those who tried to measure you against ordinary standards discovered, often painfully, that your spiritual rank operates on an entirely different frequency, a frequency that commands respect, enforces boundaries, and protects your destiny automatically. The people who underestimated you, who tried to provoke you, or who assumed leverage over your life have all been confronted with a truth they weren't ready for. Your strength is intrinsic, your resilience is undeniable, and your blessings are independent of anyone's approval or interference. They saw patience that warned, silence that protected, compassion that discerned, and resilience that transformed attacks into proof of your elevation. Their tests didn't expose your flaws. They exposed their own lack of understanding, their spiritual unpreparedness, and their inability to access what is divinely aligned for you. Every action taken against you only highlighted your authority. Every attempt to shake you only confirmed your stability, and every scheme meant to derail you only demonstrated that your path, your calling, and your destiny cannot be replicated, stolen, or interrupted. You move through life backed, covered, and elevated in ways that leave observers stunned when they finally realize they've been dealing with a soul of extraordinary rank. This is the power of the chosen one, an authority that doesn't scream, a protection that doesn't ask, and a destiny that cannot be interfered with by human limitation. The recognition of your rank by others is never something you announce. It is always revealed in their own encounters, in the consequences they face, and in the undeniable unfolding of your life. You are untouchable, unbreakable, and spiritually sovereign. If this message resonates, make sure to subscribe to the channel to stay connected with more insights for chosen ones. Like this video if it speaks to your truth, share it to awaken someone else, and drop a comment to let us know how your spiritual rank has shown itself in your life. Every engagement strengthens this community, and together we continue to rise, aligned and unstoppable. God bless you.